Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and you join me here in Boston. We are here for the next part of the Wasteland biographies. So, as I've mentioned in the last couple of videos, I'm changing things about the way I approach things. So, there's going to be less videos on a weekly basis, the shorter videos, but I'm working on producing a long form video essay with a lot more in-depth analysis and deep dives that I'm aiming to release one of those every month. And I've also decided that maybe I should put my face on as well so you can see that I'm a real person. So hi, and yeah, we'll see how this goes. So we're here. This is obviously significant. So we're going to talk about the story of a man named Edgar Swann. And if you've ever sort of wandered into Boston Common at this time in history, you'll notice that there's warning signs everywhere. People are just like, nope, stay away, be careful, because we're here at Boston Common. So there's the railroad's marker that says be careful, danger ahead. Some of the background is getting a wee bit glitchy, and there's a very good reason for that we need to be very, very careful. And it's because there is something in this pond that is very dangerous. And if you've been here, you probably know exactly what I mean. Yep, stay back, Swan. So, and swans get a bit of a bad rap because there's that whole rumour that, they're strong enough that they can break your arm. That is not true. They're strong and they are potentially quite aggressive when they want to be, but they're not quite that dangerous. They can't break your arm. I've dealt with swans, like real swans. They're not too bad. It's over here. This is what I'm looking for. So yeah, there's the little pond here at Boston Common, which is a common place for a lot of the locals to visit on a regular basis. But there's Grognak the Barbarian here as well. So remember that if you're coming here. But there's a note. Here it is, which was just knocked over, so that's helpful. Oh, wait. Yeah, we go. Got it. So, Raider's advice. Still think you boys are out of your mind. You want to know how I do it. Head around the north side and rush the bandstand. Be quick, you might be able to get some defences up before he notices you. If you can hole up in there, you might just have enough cover to outlast him. Whatever you do, don't go in the pond. So, very, very emphasised based on the caps there. So we need to talk about the man named Edgar Swann before we go any further into this story. So Edgar Swann was an employee at the Commonwealth Institute of Technology in a janitorial capacity, and he got himself into a wee bit of hot water by stealing some cigarettes, which is definitely not something that's advisable. It's bad for your health in more ways than one. So, don't recommend. But because of this petty crime, his punishment that he was offered was to serve a month's probation. So kind of like a community service sort of deal, where he had to stay in this isolation and he had to keep a journal of his experiences, but he would get all the food and water that he needed, and he agreed and seemed quite optimistic about this plan. So the next thing we want to do is head into this little shack. So be aware if you're coming here, this area is extremely radioactive. Dog meat doesn't care. But yeah, you can see there's a pile of something there, so we will get back to that. Oh, there he is. Never mind. Hi, Swan. So yep, this is Swan. This is what he's become. So we're going to have a look at the journey for how he ended up in that situation. So when you come here, there's this little kind of shack, and there's a number of notes which are experiment logs. So we're going to just collect all them and read them. There's day 1. So Edgar Swann, day 1. So I nipped a few cigs. Big deal. Smart asses may run this place, but they can't just do whatever they want. I got rights, try worked out for me in the end. They agreed to probation. I stay inside for a month, write something every day, and they bring me all the food and water I want. They think this is punishment. Sure beats scrubbing floors all day. So day 1, He seems quite optimistic about this. This is going to be easy and actually better than his normal everyday job. So that sounds great, and he's quite happy with this outcome just for stealing some cigarettes. So then we get to day 6. So unfortunately for poor Edgar, by day 6 he's realised that there's something going on. He's got these odd symptoms. So he says, should have known something was wrong when they came back for more tests. Every bone in my body aches. I'm on edge all the time. Jittery, can barely write, but my mind's just racing. Damn it, what's going on? What did they do to me? So all these kind of symptoms, the aches and pains, feeling jittery, feeling on edge, his mind racing. This all sounds like a stress response to me. So activation of your kind of fight or flight system, high levels of catecholamines, which is the sort of adrenaline or epinephrine. Both names are correct for that particular hormone, which is obviously your fight or flight. Gets your heart racing, gets your oxygen intake higher, gets your muscles ready to move. And also anabolic steroids, which would be like your androgens, your testosterone based steroids that cause increased muscle mass and bone density. Both of these hormones can cause these symptoms that kind of on the surface sound like anxiety, but both these classes of hormones can trigger these kind of sensations and these feelings in the body as well. So he knows something's not right. He knows that they've done something to him. He's just not clear on what that is. So then we'll go back to the note number, which was day 14. Just bear with me while I find it. At least it's under E, so it's not that far down. This is still stupid. They really need to fix this for the next game. Put the notes in a separate tab again, because this is nonsense. Anyway, day 14. So my physiological evolution seems to have stabilised. The medical team says my muscle mass has more than tripled since the experiment began, and my neural efficiency has improved markedly. This particular strain of modified FEV has been a remarkable success. I appear to have received all of the anticipated benefits without the typical adverse effects. My application to join the research team is awaiting the director's approval. Although further tests may be in order, I hope to be able to assist in my own experiment in the coming days. So obviously he is kind of feeling like there's a lot of benefits. He's gaining muscle mass. He is, kind of feeling all right. But if you notice, there's quite a difference in the language in this journal entry compared to the previous two. There's less contractions, there's less casual talk, it's much more kind of precise and intellectual. He's using scientific terminology, he's using technical language, and he is interested in being involved in the research into his own case. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the FEV, because we now know he's confirmed it's a modified strain of FEV that he's been infected with to cause this change, but it's improving his intellect as well, because something that we see and something that we think of when we encounter super mutants in the wild is that they're all like, the Hulk, they're just big, green and angry, and they just want to smash everything and kill everything. But if we go back to classic Fallout, some of the super mutants that were created at Mariposa by the Master are actually quite intelligent. Marcus is very intelligent. He's fairly sound. There's quite a few of them. So it does show that actually the FEV can improve intellect. So he's like, yeah, this is great. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling smart. I'm feeling strong. I want to get involved with the research. So it's quite an interesting insight into this process of what happens when someone is infected with FEV. And then there's another note somewhere. There it is. Was probably looking right at it, but never mind. Right, so yep, a week after that was day 14. So we're now on to day 21, and unfortunately things aren't going too well for our buddy Edgar here. So seizures continue. After the second one this morning, I was ordered back to the observation lab for further study. My prognosis is poor. I made the discovery myself. The viral strain I was infected with is fundamentally unstable. My mental capacity peaked 2 days ago and has become rapidly deteriorating. The seizures are just the beginning. Will they reject me like all the others? So, yeah. You know, he's developing some serious neurological symptoms. Seizures are dangerous. They can kill a person. So the effect that the virus has had on his brain has become unstable and has become harmful. So they're putting him back in observation. But he now, because the infection's improved his intellect, he knows that this isn't going to end well for him now. He knows that, you know, prognosis is poor. That means probable death or potentially really, really serious long-term outcome. That's a poor prognosis. And he knows that, and that last sentence is really quite heartbreaking, because he says, will they reject me like all the others? So what he's worried about is that the Institute are going to be like, right, okay, your experiment's done, you're useless, the results are crap, and they just kick him out of the facility and leave him to his fate, which is exactly what they did, you know, because the Institute doesn't actually give a shit about people. That's we know that. So they kicked him out and they left him to his fate, expecting that he would just come out here and die somehow. So he kind of wandered the surface and ended up here at Boston Common and began living here in this little shack. And he continued to transform into a super mutant and eventually into super mutant behemoth. So he did leave a note for himself. So we'll look at that one. It should be under S. Swan's note. So you are Swan with double N. So the way his name was spelled as Edgar was Swan with a double N. But as a super mutant, he's just Swan, like the bird. So this note is a reminder of who he is. It's reminding him, you are Swan, this is who you are. And he has collected the swan boats. There's a wing there, and you can see that he's kind of wearing a swan boat as armour and using part of the boat as a weapon as well. So whether this is just a, you know, connection because his name is Swan and he sees the swans and he's like, yes, those are swans, so that means that, you know, it's related to me, and it's potentially an indication that he's trying to cling on to his identity, you know, sort of remembering his identity of who he was before all this happened to him, and that he's trying to kind of hang on to that. And he stayed here ever since, so there's notes and things, and you can see dotted about, there's bodies everywhere, people that have unfortunately not survived, like the person that's in the kind of bandstand here. And then there is a raider. Michael, so you have a torn letter, which I think is kind of related, but not really. Ah, there it is. I just couldn't see it. There we go. Fugitives holotape.
Lost them?
Yeah, we made it, Molly. We made it.
Why'd they let us go?
No, come on. Let's keep moving.
Wait, the Common. You've heard about the Common.
Oh, God. Mar, look out!
Yeah, so, you know, obviously this happened quite a long time ago, given that we're left with just bones and pieces. But, yeah, two people that were on the run, and they ended up coming here, and they're like, oh no, have you heard the rumours? And then, well, you can guess what happened next. There's another more recent dead person somewhere. There she is. There we go. Torn note from Kath. Here, so this is the final, so there's the torn letter from Michael. You know how much I miss you, but it's too dangerous if you stay at Diamond City. At least I know you're safe. If your mind's really made up, then be careful, travel at night, stick to the river, and whatever you do, don't go into the commons. So you can tell that these, you know, people have been warning others about the common for a long, long time. This is another one. It's no joke, Kath. He's out there. I seen him. Tore Davy's head clean off. Boy, never even got his gun out. Give it up, girl. Like who's got a future with us. Don't throw it all away on some fool dare. So, yes, the people have been warning others about coming to Boston Common for a long time because of this guy. So let's go into the water with him and get a better look at him. So yeah, you can see he's obviously, you know, he's got lots of skeletons attached to him. He's got this thing, which is like a big axe or something. I don't know where he got that. And he's using bits of the Swan boats, which he's attached as a form of armour, and also I guess he uses this to knock people over and things like that. So if you do manage to kill him, obviously not easiest because he is a behemoth, they're very dangerous, and you are rewarded with the Furious Power Fist. And honestly, I think, given what this guy's been through, killing him is probably a bit of a mercy at this point, you know, because it all happened just because he stole some cigarettes, which, okay, is a crime and it's illegal and all the rest of it, but, you know, it's not the same as, you know, literally murdering 10 people. There's a wee bit of, you know, it seems like an extreme situation to put this guy in for such a petty crime, but it's just another tale of harm that's caused by the Institute and their experimentation. We know they were doing a lot of research into FEV because of the Gen 3 synths that they were wanting to create. And this story really gives us quite an interesting insight, I think, into the transformation that, you know, this guy's gone from human to becoming a mutant and then becoming a behemoth. We can meet somebody else that can still talk to us, really, which is Brian Virgil, but he doesn't really share much about the experience or the process that he went through when he transformed himself into a super mutant. But you can, if you've read these notes and things, I think you can actually ask him about Edgar Swann, and he is aware of this guy and kind of what happened to him. So the data was there in the FEV lab and the Institute until Brian destroyed it all. So he was aware of what happened to Edgar Swann and the fact that he was just basically dumped, thrown away and just left to die in the Commonwealth. But unfortunately, because of that, the Institute are now responsible for the death of, that's at least, 3, 4, 5 people. And judging by the number of skulls that are strapped to his arm, probably many more. So it's a really interesting story. It's kind of dangerous to investigate. I've got God mode on so that I don't die of radiation poisoning while I'm talking. But if you're playing properly, this area is very highly radioactive, so you need to be aware of that. Make sure you bring in radiation protection and stuff. But, you know, so spending time in there, because there's rad barrels in the shack as well, so you do take quite a high rate of radiation here while you're picking up all the paper notes that aren't the easiest to see. But, you know, it really, again, it proves, just like the story we talked about previously about Jacqueline Spencer and University Point, this is another story that just really tells us that the Institute aren't the good guys. They say that they're the last best hope for humanity and they're going to fix all the world's problems, but they don't care. They clearly don't care about the harm that they're causing. It's the fact that they're dumping these super mutants out into the Commonwealth, and they're well aware of what the super mutants are doing because they've got their spy crows, you know, everywhere. So they must see how many of these super mutants are just killing people left, right and centre. Is that something that is done by an institution that wants to help humanity? I don't think so. If they actually cared about the people on the surface, they would just dispose of their failed experiments instead of just dumping them into the Commonwealth. Obviously, you know, Nick Valentine turned out to be an asset and generally a good guy. You know, I'll give you that. But the super mutants are a really huge problem, same as they were back in California, same as they were in Fallout 3, you know, in the mall, where it was literal trenches in a war zone over the control of the middle of Washington DC. You know, these super mutants are big, they're dangerous, if they travel in a group, they can easily overwhelm somebody that's not very well armed. So, you know, they have to be responsible for everything. All these people that this guy's killed, as well as the suffering that he endured, the Institute are responsible for that. So, you know, they don't care about Swann's victims, and Swan himself, Edgar Swann, was a victim as well of the Institute, and he has unfortunately paid a pretty unpleasant price in order to just be that, just because they stole a packet of cigarettes, which, is really... is nothing, compared to some of the crimes that people commit in the world, both in folly and in the real world. Stealing a pack of cigarettes doesn't really justify this, I don't think. But what do you think about it? Do you think that, the Institute are doing this on purpose because they want to destroy people, or do you think they just don't care what happens to the people and they're just throwing super mutants out there to get rid of them because they can't be bothered to deal with them properly if they're not what they intended? Nah. This is why I don't think I've ever finished an Institute ending on Fallout 4, because as pretty as it is, and it's all cool and clean and space agey, and they're doing science and it's great, they're the things that they do and the way that they approach things, because there's no ethics committees, there's no rules or regulations anymore, so they do have free rein to do whatever the hell they want, but what they're doing and what they want to do, it just doesn't sit right with me at all, personally. So that's everything from me and Swan. Definitely feel sorry for the guy, and I think killing him, which you can do, it's not the easiest, especially if you're still very low level and you come past here and it takes you by surprise. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.